Naval Officer Marvin Brayfield and his wife, Jennifer Jesse, are suing the former guardian of Marvin's son, Carolyn Blake, for filing false charges with Child Protective Services. Carolyn claims Marvin kidnapped his boy.
This is case number 353 on the calendar in the matter of Brakefield Jesse versus Blake. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat.
Mr. Brakefield, this is your girlfriend, is that right?
This is my wife.
This is your wife now?
Yes.
At the time of this, it was your girlfriend?
At the time of it, yeah.
Okay. According to what I read, several years ago, you had either a relationship with somebody, you had a brief marriage.
I was married to my first wife.
Okay. And that marriage produced a child?
Yes, it did.
A child that your then-wife was not interested in raising?
That's correct.
And you took custody of that child?
Yes, I did.
But you weren't either in a position or you weren't interested in being a full-time parent either. So you turned your son over to the defendant for the purpose of care. And Mrs. Blake cared for your son for how many years?
21 months.
And during that 21 months, you were in the armed forces?
Yes.
Where were you stationed?
It was in Point Loma, California, in San Diego.
And Mrs. Blake cared for your son every day? He slept there?
Not full-time, no. She was a daycare provider and a close friend.
You mean your son was only there during the day?
He was there during the day, except for Tuesdays and Thursday nights, where she offered to keep him overnight so that I could go work out at the gym and perhaps get some more personal time.
Other than that, he slept at your house?
He slept overnight at my house, yes.
Is that correct?
No, it's not correct. He was with me 24/7 for the first 4 months. He didn't even come by to visit his son, but twice, and it was only after we requested it.
So for the first 4 months, he was with you full-time?
He was with me full-time the whole 21 months.
Does that sound right?
No, it's not correct at all.
Okay. Whether the child was with you 24/7 for the first 4 months or 21 months practically full-time, you started a new relationship with the co-plaintiff, and you decided that it was no longer necessary for Mrs. Blake to take care of your son, so you picked him up one day from her home, didn't tell her that you did not plan to return him, and took him, I assume, back to your house.
Yes.
Mrs. Blake called Child Protective Services. She tried to contact you. She didn't know where you were. She didn't know where the child was. She called Child Protective Services, and she made a report of suspected child abuse and/or neglect. And you did do that.
Yes,
you acknowledged that you did that.
Yes, I did, and I was concerned deeply about Cody. He was not ever out of my sight without me knowing where he was more than 2 days.
Just a second. Well, that's what your case is involving. Your case is involving this call to Child Protective Services, which you say were unnecessary and unwarranted, causing you all kinds of grief, and you want to be compensated for that.
Yes.
And Mrs. Blake said that what you really did was amount to kidnapping this child without telling her that you were taking him, without telling her that you did not intend to return him to the home. And she had a legitimate concern about his well-being, and she called Child Protective Services. Right?
That's correct.
So, there's no question that for almost 2 years, Miss Blake was an integral part of your son's life. Is that right?
That's true.
How did he refer to her?
Mom.
I'm asking him.
He called her mom because that's how she'd call him mommy. She'd call him mamas. So that it would, what he would say when he was around her.
All I want to know from you is, I want a direct answer to my question. Direct answer to my question, Mr. Brakefield, is that he called the defendant Mommy, right?
Yes.
Cody also calls him Mommy. He also calls me Mommy. He calls a lot of people Mommy.
I didn't ask you anything yet. Nothing. How did you find Mrs. Blake?
She was a wife of one of my coworkers when I was at a different command.
You must have regarded her highly if you turned your son over to her.
I didn't have anybody else.
So what you're telling me is you would have turned him over to anybody because you needed a babysitter. Is that what you're telling me?
No. She offered to help me out. I was in a tight situation. She offered to help me out, and I accepted her help.
Mr. Brakefield, you're not going to be able to get away from my question. Either you believed that she was a quality caregiver, or you didn't know whether she was a quality caregiver or not, but you used her anyway.
I believe she was a quality caregiver.
That's a better answer. So, did anything happen during the course of the 21 months that Mrs. Blake was caring for your son that led you to believe that she was not a quality caregiver?
Yes.
Tell me what that was.
There were several occasions where I went into her house when picking my son up from her. There would be dog feces outside of her bedroom or down near her office, and she would tell her son to clean it up, and it would just stay there.
So that happened when?
On several occasions.
How much into the babysitting?
It was probably anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half into it.
Well, you weren't sufficiently concerned about that to take your son out and find a different daycare for him, right?
I felt it was something that I could resolve.
How could you resolve that?
By talking to her and saying, no, I've brought this up to you on past occasions.
So what I'm asking you is, it never reached the point where you felt as if your child was in danger.
Not in physical danger, no.
Well, in physical danger from being in a place that was unclean.
Well, he was allowed to walk around with cleaning products like the dishwasher pillow packets. I brought that up, and I was told, oh, he can't break those open. They're tough to open. You can barely, it's hard to open them, so he's perfectly safe.
When during the course of her babysitting for your son did that happen? How old was he?
It actually happened on multiple occasions. I just kept bringing it up, and told, oh, he's fine, he's fine. And then one day I get a phone call from her saying, well, I'm not going to let him walk around with the cleaners anymore. He just sprayed 409 into Trevor's eyes.
When did you take your son out of Miss Blake's care?
On the 25th of July of this year.
And what was the impetus of you doing that?
I have a letter that I sent her that listed the reasons why I was terminating her services.
Let me see the letter.
The straw that broke the camel's back was that I allowed her to take my son to Las Vegas because she was going there for 4 days, one of which on the very first day was my dad's day off because my father lives there, and I figured, well, she can take my son to see his grandfather.
Yes.
So the very first day that she was there, it was my dad's day off. My dad did not see his grandson that day.
All right.
My dad didn't see his grandson until the night before they left, and only for half an hour. So I was on the phone with my dad when she walked in the front door. So my dad says, well, they're here, I'm going to see my grandson. I hung up the phone. Half hour later, I called him back expecting to hear, oh, yeah, everything's going great. You know, I'm loving my grandson. I don't get that. I get, she doesn't like you. I said, well, Dad, why doesn't she like me? She has nothing good to say about you. She said, you're self-centered. She says, you're never there for your son. And I said, you know, this is why I had her as a babysitter, because I'm in the Navy and sometimes I do work some late hours and I live 40 miles from work. So sometimes I go home and I sit in traffic for an hour and a half and I don't get there till 6, 7 o'clock at night. And it's not that I don't want to be there for my son. It's just that I had her services so that I wouldn't have to go to my boss and say, it's 4 o'clock, I got to pick up my son from daycare.
Your Honor?
Just a second.
Okay.
So are you telling me that the reason you decided to terminate her employment, by the way, how much did you pay her?
$300 twice a month. My father also told me that...
Don't tell me anything that your father told you, sir, because that's all hearsay. So you paid her a little over $600 a month. Is that right?
He didn't pay for the first 4 months. We got the baby on December 26th. He had nothing, no diapers, no clothes, no items. This is the first baby item I bought him.
Just a second. So
And
what you're telling me the first 4 months
4
he
months,
gave you...
nothing,
Is
not
that right?
one dime.
Is that
No, that's
right?
not true.
Show me proof that for the first 4 months you paid her $300 twice a month.
I paid her in cash. She insisted on it.
And later?
It was all cash. I mean, I paid her by check one time, and she got upset because she said she didn't want to have to make a trip to the bank.
So let me ask you this question, sir. You wrote this after you had already taken your son
Out of her
without
care.
telling her.
Right.
So
But she
you
has
took
a-
Your
the...
Honor, I have court documents to where Carolyn was so involved in his divorce and so pushy in regards to the care of Carolyn
Or
that
Cody.
the attorney actually asked that she not be in the picture anymore.
Doesn't make any difference. I told you once before. I didn't ask you anything. When did you meet him?
In March.
When did you start dating?
March,
And were you dating in April?
yes.
Where did you live?
In Oceanside.
How did you meet him?
I met him online.
And when did you decide to get married?
June.
So you decided to get married in June, and in July, all of these irritants that had been bothering him for 2 years all of a sudden made it so that he took the child out of Miss Blake's custody without giving her any advanced warning. Is that the time frame we're talking about?
That's right.
Right. I got it. So you'll answer me when I ask you a question. Do you have children?
No.
Okay. Is somebody from Child Protective Services currently monitoring your home?
No, they closed the case.
Did I look as if I was looking at you? I was looking at him.
They closed the case and they sent they gave
I
me a
want to
letter.
see the closed letter. This letter suggests that they conducted an investigation over a 2-month period, and that you now have your child in a licensed daycare facility but they recommend that he be tested at the Hope Infant program because the daycare provider thinks that the child may have some developmental deficiencies. Have you done that, sir?
I have already.
And what's the result?
The daycare provider thought he might have a speech delay like one of his other brothers did. And I had a representative of the Hope Infant program come to my home, and it was determined that he does not have a speech delay because he's been talking, he's been putting three-word sentences together and doing just fine.
Okay. Now we're going to get back to my original question, Mr. Brakefield, and that is, why did you not notify Miss Blake that you planned not to return Cody to her care?
Because before my first wife lost her parental rights, we had actually agreed to physical custody sharing. I informed Miss Blake of that, and she got very angry with me and started yelling at me that I was sending my son off to die, and so I figured, not wanting to go through that again and not knowing what her reaction this time would be, I figured a written letter would be the best route to go.
But you took him on July 25th, according to you, and you didn't write this letter, according to the date on the letter, until August 13th. So between July 25th and August 13th, what communication did you have with her?
I had none.
Well, that's wrong,
Except
sir.
when I told her I was going to go to Las Vegas to visit my father, which instead I went to another location, and my father started receiving phone calls from her demanding to know where I was, and my sister said she didn't know, and she was told by Miss Blake that she didn't care about me, she didn't care about Cody.
Don't listen to me. That's all hearsay. I'm asking you what you did.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You had bad judgment when you picked wife numero uno. I hope that you had better judgment when you picked numero due. I'm not so sure.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Marvin Brakefield and his wife Jennifer Jesse claim child care provider Carolyn Blake falsely accused him of kidnapping his son.
Mr. Brakefield, you're coming to court today, a man who, because of circumstances, finds himself in a position of having to care for an infant full-time and have a job. You did it with the help of Miss Blake for almost 2 years.
Right.
Then you meet this lady, and I gather from your complaint and from her answer that these two ladies did not get along.
At first they did when I first brought her over to her house.
Right now, it may be the first minute. After that, they did not get along. And within a month of the two of you deciding to make a life together, you remove Cody from Miss Blake's custody and don't tell her that you're not coming back. And expect her, listen to me, sir, and expect her to just say, well, I guess he decided to take the boy himself. There you go. And forget about it. And some 3.5 weeks later, sent her a letter outlining why you took him from her custody. I don't think that's right. So
I wasn't sure what her reaction would be, and I didn't want to risk
all you have to do is
screamed
send her a
at and yelled at.
telegram. I decided to terminate your responsibilities with regard to Cody. I will not be bringing him back. After I return from vacation, I have found another daycare provider, period.
I don't think it would have made a difference in her reaction.
Well, you don't know, but at least you would have done the right thing.
I have several harassing phone calls on my cell phone. She threatened to sue for custody of my son. The time she threatened to call CPS. She called my command on several occasions. There are times that she on several of the phone calls says, I am Cody's mother, and even has a message directly to Cody saying, this is mommy, this is your mother. It's just, anybody who's ever read this or heard the messages thinks we did the right thing by getting him out of her care.
Listen to me. I don't necessarily think you did the wrong thing by deciding to resume full-time physical custody of your child. You now had a fiancé who was going to be living with you, so you were in a better position to take care of him. I don't fault you, sir, for removing Cody and deciding to take him back in your full-time charge. I fault you for the method in which you did it. You did it in a heartless fashion. Very heartless. Not only heartless for her, but heartless for your son. He's a 2-year-old child. And the only maternal figure that he's known in 2 years is her. So whether you decide to take him back full-time, you sit down, you have a conversation, and you say, listen, you may like it, you may not like it, but I'm getting married, and I am going to take Cody back. We're going to make a family, the three of us, but I'd like to be able to do this in an orderly fashion. I'd like to be able to bring him to you 3 days a week, and then bring him 2 days a week, and then down to 1 day a week, and you can always visit him so that the transition for my son would be easier. Do you understand what I'm saying to you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
If she rejected that, you've at least done the right thing. But you can't do the wrong thing and then come to court and expect me to feel sorry for you because after you did the wrong thing, she called Child Protective Services. What you did was wrong. What you did was abusive to a child who has the only other parent that they know, the one that they're with most of the time, because when you pick him up after work, then he goes to sleep. And that's those days that you're not picking him up because you're going to the gym and taking care of other personal business. Right, according to you.
It's part of my job. It's mandatory. It's a mandatory military regulation that you work out 3 days a
Great!
week.
What does your 2-year-old son have to do with that? All he knows is the only person that's taking care of him is her.
Yep.
And what you did was precipitously and without any thought to how it was going to impact on him, you removed him from the only family that he knew without a transition. And that, as far as I'm concerned, was abusive. And that, as far as I'm concerned, deserves a call to Child Protective Services and say, what kind of person has this kind of judgment? I'm afraid for the kind of judgment that he is exercising with regard to this 2-year-old. You got my drift? I've raised some children, and I have grandchildren, and you're supposed to take the position as a parent that you're supposed to do what's best for them, the children, all the time. Not what's best for your girlfriend, but what's best for the child. Right. Not even for what's best for her. Right. She's not the issue. You're grown-ups. He's not a grown-up. He's a baby. And you and your first wife put him in a position. You had bad judgment when you picked wife numero uno. I hope that you had better judgment when you picked numero due. I'm not so sure. But you and your first wife, it was your bad judgment picking somebody who wasn't ready to have a family. It was second poor judgment that you had a baby with somebody that wasn't ready to have a family. You find a caregiver who was given your child, who's kept him safe, fed, clean, because you didn't remove him from her custody for 2 years, so evidently her care could not have been that inadequate, sir. And then when you decide to do it, you do it in a fashion that is not designed to ease the transition. As far as I'm concerned, that's neglectful and very bad judgment. So, did you call Child Protective Services?
Yes, you better believe I did.
Good for you. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused.
Civil engineer David Fletcher is suing his ex-girlfriend, admissions clerk Brenda Manus, for illegally cashing a check and for attorney fees. Brenda says David was stalking her.
That's case number 345 on the calendar in the matter of Fletcher versus Manus. Has been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Mr. Fletcher, you and the defendant used to date.
Yes, ma'am.
And there came a time when, according to your complaint, the defendant had accused you of being unfaithful.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said to her, it's not true. Here's a blank check. I'm signing it. You take this blank check and go hire yourself a private investigator and investigate me. Yep. So far, is that right?
Yes.
So she took the blank check, she filled it out, made it payable to herself for a couple of $1,000.
Mm-hmm. Ma'am?
Who did you make it payable to?
He made it payable to me.
Oh.
He put my name in it.
Fine. You just filled in the amount.
Yes, ma'am.
Then things didn't go well. She accused you of stalking her. Mm-hmm. You were arrested, had to hire a lawyer. Those charges were subsequently dismissed. So you want the $2,000 back from the check and the attorney's fees.
That's correct.
Ms. Main says she cashed that check and wrote in $2,000 because she had to be taught a lesson not to be such an idiot. I mean, she doesn't say that, but that's about what you said. And that she had grounds to file a complaint for stalking because you were, in fact, stalking her and making her very uncomfortable. Was he stalking you because he wanted his money back?
He never asked for the money back, Your Honor.
Never?
No.
When, for the first time, did he ask for the money back?
I received a,
let's say,
a letter
let's start from
at
the
work.
beginning. When did he give you the check?
It was end of April, first part of May.
Can I see a copy of the check, please?
Yes, ma'am. I put together this, and it's got an index with all the things, or do you just want that?
Listen to me. I'm not as young as I used to be.
Okay.
Just give me a copy of the check.
There's some other stuff stapled to it.
April 6th. But that's the date on the check. And it was cashed?
In the upper right-hand corner there, it's the 8th of April, is when it actually transpired through the bank.
2 days later. Didn't waste any time.
Nope.
What'd you do with all the money?
I paid a bill of my daughter's, and that's about it.
Okay, then I have here some emails. You were hell-bent to give me these things anyway. This one is dated Thursday, April 8th, 9:14 a.m. From you. No, David, I'm not going to hire a PI with your money, but I'm going to hold on to your money for a couple of months so you can sweat a little. That should be long enough to teach you a lesson on giving someone a blank check. By the way, I cashed it for $2,000, and you did have money in the account. You're lucky I didn't cash it for $10,000 like someone suggested. You lied to me about how much money was in your account, so you must not trust me. I hate liars, and once I'm lied to, I have a hard time believing anything that a person says to me in the future. How much after that did you break up with him?
We were broke up.
2 days later after he gave you the check?
Prior to the check.
You're not a nice person.
Maybe not.
Well, you're right. Well, I'm glad if somebody knows themselves. That's the first step to self-healing. I mean, you took advantage of him.
I don't feel that I did, Your Honor.
You don't feel as if you took advantage of him. He gave you this check for what reason? He gave you the check and said, I haven't been doing the wrong thing. I have been doing the right thing. Here, take this. You should have taken it, ripped it in 10 pieces and say, listen, David, it's over. I'm not interested in you. Instead, you took the check, you cashed the check, you went and bought yourself something, you paid a bill for your daughter, and then, after you told me, I'm going to hold on to the money for a couple of months. That's what you said to him. So far, you owe him $2,000.
Excuse me?
So far, you owe him $2,000 because you said you were going to give it back to him. That's what you said in the email. That's your email. That's what you said.
Like
you said, I'm going
to me?
I don't care what he wrote to you. You told him that I'm going to hold on to it long enough to teach you a lesson. Did you learn your lesson?
Yes, ma'am, unfortunately.
Now, can I see when you filed stalking charges against him? Did you continue to send her letters and emails and flowers?
Well, what I'd like to do is present my evidence on this, if I could. While we were dating, I did.
Listen to me.
When we were
Listen to me. Watch me. After she cashed this check, did you send her flowers?
The last flowers I sent her was the first or second week of April. After the check, we were broke up for like a week. We got back together, and I have emails that she has communicated with me.
When you say you got back together, did you take her out for dinner?
We went out to dinner, and I have my business partner here that came over to Gold Beach, and she'd actually went out to dinner with us.
After April 8th?
After, yes.
Okay. Now, when did you tell him that you didn't want him calling you anymore?
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
It was May 19th, and I have the last email correspondence that I actually had with her.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am. This was the last correspondence. And that's when she told me that she had a boyfriend and I was cramping her style, evidently.
I don't say
May
cramping
19th.
style.
And from that point on, I had no more contact with her other than after I got served with a stalking order, which I got served. That was May 19th. When I had a hospital appointment, I had to have some surgery done at the hospital there. She works there, and bumped into me. And after I got done with my surgery and I got home, the next thing I know, I'm getting served with a stalking order. And that was, I hadn't saw her for almost a month.
How come you never told the police that you ripped him off for $2,000? I don't see that anywhere here.
Your Honor, I didn't rip him off for
Yes, you
$2,000.
did.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, you did.
Okay.
Oh, you did.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How come you didn't say to yourself, maybe if I give him back the $2,000 that I took from him, maybe he would leave me alone? What are you looking at me? Am I speaking a foreign language to you?
And later today,
Would you describe the dog when you went there?
She was bleeding really bad from her mouth, and when I tried to, move her lips to see what was wrong, it was like a seizure. She started turning her head around real bad.
How did this happen to his dog?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Fletcher claims ex-girlfriend Brenda Manus owes for illegally cashing a check and for falsely accusing him of stalking.
Now, He didn't make you a gift. He didn't make you a loan. It was clear that he was trying to be a boyfriend and gave you this check. And initially, put your hand down. Initially, what you said was, 2 days after you cashed the check was, I'm just going to hold on to it for a couple of months to teach you a lesson not to be a fool and give somebody a blank check. Somewhere along the line, you changed your mind after you spent the money. So my question to you is, how come you didn't tell the police when you filed these charges against him, not for threatening you in any way, just he sent you emails, he sent you flowers, then he called you. How come you didn't say anywhere in any of these statements that I took $2,000 from his bank account? You didn't think that was relevant?
Nope.
No. And how come you didn't, if you thought that he was stalking you, how come you didn't say to yourself, maybe if I give him back the $2,000 that I took from him and made a fool out of him, maybe he would leave me alone and wouldn't bother me. And here's the $2,000, because he says to you in an email, why don't you just give me back my $2,000? I'll leave a deposit slip for you. What are you looking at me? Am I speaking a foreign language to you?
I would like to see that. I don't recall
Sure.
that. And
Sure.
Thank you.
How much was your lawyer?
$712.
$712, did you say?
Yeah.
Refresh your recollection now? When he says, I'll leave you a deposit slip, please put my money back in my account. When did you do that, Miss Maines?
When did I put the money back in his account?
Yeah.
I did not.
And if somebody was stalking me, if someone was following me around, if someone was coming to my place of business, I would say, gee, I want to remove any irritant that might exist with that person because they feel like a fool. Not a nice person. You were right at the beginning. First statement was right. You are not. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,712. You don't abuse the courts by filing stalking petitions when you've done the wrong thing. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's mad because I filed the stalking order on him.
No, there was no stalking.
He emailed me constantly. I blocked his email.
Only part of the hateful part was the part that she told me when she had a boyfriend.
Called 2 and 3 times a week.
I emailed her back and I told her what I thought of her leading me on like that.
He would not leave me alone.
She basically wrote the check for more than she was supposed to.
He gave it to me.
It was supposed to be paid back. It wasn't paid back.
Was never asked to be returned.
There'll be no more blank checks.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Fisk versus Billy, step forward, please.
18-year-old cashier Francis Fisk is suing his former friend, construction worker Diane Billy, for injuries his pit bull received while in Diane's care. Diane is countersuing for unpaid dog-sitting fees.
According to what I read, you have a dog. What kind of a dog is it?
She's a pit bull mix.
And for some reason, you were moving, whatever, you couldn't take the dog with you, so you asked the defendant if she would be willing to take care of your dog for a while.
Yes, there was agreement set up between her and my girlfriend's father, and she's a friend of his. And,
Yes.
He asked her if she'd keep the dog. She said, yeah, it's not a problem. She lives out in the country as long as we supplied her food.
The agreement was not with you, it was with your girlfriend's father.
That's right.
Okay. And how long was she supposed to mind the dog for?
We didn't really have a set time. It was just until we found a new place to live,
So anywhere from a day to 10 years.
basically. Just until we found a spot to live.
According to your complaint, when you got the dog back, someone had severely beaten the dog
Yes, that's right.
and had severe head trauma. You want Miss Billy to take care of the vet bills.
Yes.
That's what the case is about. And Miss Billy says she doesn't know what happened to the dog. She certainly didn't beat the dog. And you owe her for food and for boarding the dog. So that's your counterclaim.
Yes.
When did she take possession of your dog?
It was towards the end of August,
How old is this dog?
13 months,
How long had you had her?
like 10 months.
From the time she was a puppy.
Mhm.
Now, did you go to visit regularly?
Yeah, at least 3 or 4 times a week.
And did you bring the food as you promised you would?
Yes.
All the time?
We left the bag over there so she could feed the dog when we weren't there. But every time we went over there, my dog's food bowl was empty, her water bowl was dry,
If that happened every time, Mr. Fisk, why didn't you remove the dog from her care?
because I had no place else to take her.
Why didn't you allow her to be adopted by somebody else?
Nobody wants a pit bull.
Well, you wanted a pit bull.
That's right.
I had another case not long ago with people who had a pit bull. So evidently a lot of people had a pit bull. That's not a smart thing to do.
It was hard. I mean, it was
What efforts did you make to try to find somebody else to take the dog?
everything I could. I talked to my mother, her friends, everybody I knew, and I couldn't
Did you
find
put
a
an
place.
ad in the paper
No.
for a 10-month-old pit bull?
No.
Friendly?
No, I didn't put any ads in the paper.
When did you find the dog injured?
I got a call on October 15th at about 10:30 saying your dog is sick. I don't know what's wrong with her. You need to come get her. I couldn't go. I had to go to work. So I got in contact with my girlfriend at school. She came home. Her and her stepmother went and got the dog and took her to the vet.
When did you see the dog?
When I picked her up from the vet's office after I got off work.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Justine Price.
Ms. Price, would you describe the dog when you went there?
Well, she was usually kept in a kennel, and she was in their breezeway inside of a cardboard box. She was bleeding really bad from her mouth, and when I tried to, like, move her lips to see what was wrong, I don't know, it was like a seizure. Like, she started turning her head around real bad, so we took her to the vet.
You have a report from the vet?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
Do you just want all the evidence?
No, I want the report from the vet. The dog had a broken jaw as a result of trauma. They wired her jaw. How did this happen to his dog?
I don't know.
Who lives in your house?
I have roommates that live there. Matt was there.
Who's Matt? How is he related to you?
He's not. He's a good friend of mine. I work with him.
Was Matt at home when this happened?
We don't know what happened. The dog was loose for 2 days, and I called to let them know that the dog was loose for 2 days. And
when was the dog loose? What, 2 days?
2 days before, the Friday that I fed the dog, it came back that Thursday. She got loose on Wednesday, and she was gone for 2 days.
And then she came back?
And she came back. I tied her up. It was dark out. I tied her up. I didn't think that anything was wrong with her. She didn't act, you know. And then the next morning when I went to go feed her, that's when her head was sideways, and she looked sick, so I called Frankie to let him know that their dog was sick and they'd take it to the vet. And he said he had to go to work. They never.
You know what happened to the dog?
I have no idea.
What?
He's the one that's accused of hitting my dog. But I couldn't do anything about it because I couldn't prove it.
Well, what makes you think he hit your dog?
Because the person that spoke to her and spoke to us told us the whole story. I mean, I wasn't there. I can't say that's what happened. But I heard the same story from two people that both associate with Diane. They both go over there and party and get drunk and whatnot. They both associate with her. And they both told me that he's the one that hit my dog.
Oh, somebody hit your dog. What do you do for a living?
Work construction, concrete.
How old are you?
18.
Did you have a party over there on October 14th?
Yeah.
I don't hear you. Yeah is not an answer. Yes is an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
How many people were at the party?
Just a couple people. It was
a couple is 2.
All right, like 5 or 6.
Now, I want you to list the 5 or 6 people that were at the house. I want you to make sure you list them all right.
Sean, Becca, Dusty, me, Diane, and Marky.
And what was the drink of choice that evening?
Bud Light.
Anything other than Bud Light?
No, ma'am.
Where was Miss Bealey?
Oh, she was there. I'm sorry.
Were you playing any games that evening, sir?
No, ma'am.
Where was the dog?
Outside.
Tied up?
Yeah, it should have been.
Is the dog making noise?
It barks.
How many times did the dog bark?
I don't know.
Did you go out to see?
Dogs bark. They were both barking.
So between the time you had this party on the 14th and the 15th, something happened to the dog. What do you think that was?
I have no idea.
I don't either. All right, let's take care of this. You are responsible for the vet bills, madam. When you assume a responsibility, even if you assume a gratuitous responsibility, you have an obligation to see to it that no harm happens to this dog. We understand each other? And if you've got 5 or 6 teenagers, either chronologically or mentally, drinking beer in your house, and something happens to this dog, that's your fault. Now, these are prospective vet bills. It may work, the jaw wiring may work, and may not work.
When I spoke to my vet, she's had some problems breathing. And when I spoke to him, he said there's more than like a 90% chance she's going to have the major surgery.
Probably. Well, in any event, this dog has suffered substantially. Your claim is for $1,000, which, as far as I'm concerned, is most reasonable considering the vet bills that you had and the prospective vet bills. And I'm giving you these vet bills because I believe that they're responsible for what happened to your dog. Either they or some of the other drunken people that were at her house on the 14th of October. But I have pets. I love them. And if I left them someplace and went over to see them and there was no food and no water, that may happen once. But you said You never saw food and water in the bowl.
It was hard.
Then you don't tell me it was hard. It's your fault. Better off to take a dog to the Humane Society and let them look for another home for the dog rather than to let the dog stay there and be without food and water so that it runs away and to have its head used as a golf ball. You're not supposed to be an idiot even though you're 18. We understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Angela Marie is suing her daughter, set painter Lisa Kales, for a series of unpaid loans. Lisa says her mother abandoned her when she was a child.
All rise. Yes, it's case number 326 on the calendar in the matter of Marie versus Kales. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Marie, the defendant is your daughter. And it is your claim that she was disabled, and while she was waiting for her disability to come through, her Social Security disability,
yes,
you loaned her money, and once she got her retroactive money, she did not reimburse you for the monies you had loaned to her. Your daughter says that you did in fact help her while she was waiting for her disability to come through. You did so because you were her mother, because you had not been much of a mother previously to her, and there was never any arrangement between the two of you for payback of the money that you advanced her while she was sick. Okay. How many children do you have, Miss Marie?
Your Honor, I have 3.
How old are they?
In their 30s.
How old is the defendant?
34.
Did they always live with you when they were young?
I raised them until while I was working, they were 3 children from hell. I mean, what they were...
Could you just answer my question? Were they living with you, or were they not living with you during all their minority?
I was taking full responsibility for them.
You want to answer my question?
Till I was 10 years old.
And where did you go when you were 10?
She took my brothers and I to my aunt's house, and we stayed there for 2 or 3 years, and I never went back after that. Group homes, foster homes, friends.
So after the time you were 10 years old, you did not live with your mother?
No.
Are you the older of the children, or?
I'm the youngest.
And how old are your brothers and sisters?
36 and 38.
What's the nature of your disability?
Bilateral carpal tunnel.
Did you have surgery?
Yes.
Didn't work?
No.
All right, Miss Marie, you want to tell me about the money that you allegedly loaned to your daughter?
Okay, I have been supporting her because she's not been able to keep a job. I kept giving her money, and she promised to pay me back. A car was involved. Besides loaning her money, I have given her, I've bought her.
I just want to know about the loans, Miss Marie.
It's a running tab, Your Honor. She started the tab in her handwriting and said, from now on, whatever I borrow, you keep the receipts and you put it on the tab.
Let me see.
There's 3 things on this list from 1997.
Can I see it, please?
That's what she started. Progressively, we added more things on. I left half this. This is a fraction of what I've given her over the years, Your Honor.
Who cares?
She's my mother.
Shh. Who cares? I want to know what's a loan. I want to see evidence. Listen to me. I want to see evidence of a loan. If you have children, that's what you do. They can't take care of themselves and they're going through a difficult time, and you support them, you take them into your home, you buy them clothes, you take them out to dinner, you pay for the phone. That's not a loan. I don't know what you have in your mind with this being a loan. I want to see evidence of a loan. This says Lisa owes mom $150, $600, $120, and a car with a question mark. I mean, I have a Ralph's food bill.
All these receipts are from grocery stores.
Just a second.
Kmart.
I have Ralph's food bill.
She told me to put these on the loan. Your Honor, I'm not wealthy. I was giving her money that I was paying for. Sometimes I would get paid maybe $200, $300. I was giving her money. $600 for furniture. I was buying her furniture. I was supporting her, and her promise to me is that when she got a settlement, we changed the agreements from whenever she could afford it. See, I was helping her get settled in California. I paid her bills. She lived with me. The fact that I never abandoned her, Your Honor, that is so untrue. Her father came into my life and says that...
I'm not interested in what happened 30 years ago. All I'm saying to you, madam,
But it's not 30 years ago. She thinks I abandoned her. That never happened.
Did she live with you when she was 12?
No. The social services came in and took the kids away, Your Honor.
What I'm telling you, madam, is social service
Because
came
I
in...
was working.
Oh, please. Miss Marie, get your life together. Take this.
Your Honor.
Show me evidence of a loan. I want to see evidence of a loan to your daughter.
Can I say something?
What?
There was no cash. She didn't hand me cash money. It was like a favor for a favor. I didn't want to say this, but my mother's homeless. She lives in a van. She hasn't had a residence. So I'm unable to support her financially, so I help her another way. She needs a place to stay. She's always had keys to my apartment, to shower, to get on the internet, to use the telephone,
Your Honor,
whatever she needs. So it's like a favor for a favor. She would say, I'll take you to the grocery store if you let me come over and take a shower or use the phone.
I don't listen to me.
That's what it is.
That's not the truth, Your Honor.
Listen to me. Miss Marie, I want to see evidence that you as a mother had an agreement, a contract with your daughter so that any monies that you either advanced her or times you took her to the shoe store or to Ralph's grocery store, that there was an intention to pay back. Show me.
The parts that I've highlighted is her admitting that this was, she was going to pay me back.
Well, the first letter says that this is about the car that you mentioned, and she says that happened 7 years ago. We had no agreement, nothing was signed. You were helping me out because I'm your daughter. And the second letter that you showed me is, you have written here, October 2003. You say you have done and still are doing a lot of wonderful things for me. Please don't think it goes unappreciated. Does that sound familiar to you?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I have every intention of paying you back. My plan is to pay you all at once out of my settlement. You've been so patient about the whole situation, and I thank you for that. I am sure it's been very difficult. If you could just hold out a little longer until my case settles, I promise you will be completely reimbursed.
My case hasn't settled. You have to say something to this woman or she will come slash her tires or take you to court.
I beg your pardon.
Or
No.
she'll get you.
No.
She will get you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I can read forever. If you give me an hour, it's not enough.
I don't have an hour.
I know,
What I'm
but
asking
I'm
you,
trying to tell you that this woman is lying, Your Honor.
1, 2,
okay,
and then you're gone.
And later today,
Where did she hit you?
In the face somewhere.
And what did you do to her?
Bit her.
You bit her?
On the job.
Sounds like a relationship made in heaven.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Angela Marie claims her daughter, Lisa Kales, owes for many unpaid loans. Angela says she is currently homeless.
Go ahead.
This has been the most abusive situation I've ever been in my life, and I never allowed her abuse to keep me from giving to her. I was at her beck and call. I was her doctor. I was her therapist. I did everything.
You're my mother.
I'm stunned.
Listen to me.
These are letters telling how much he has abused me over the years and has lied about this. It would be nice to think that we could walk around the park and could solve all our problems, but I see that I am the cause of all our problems, so maybe I need to go walking alone. Yeah. I mean,
recall.
Lisa is lying. I can read forever. If you give me an hour, it's not enough.
I don't have an hour.
I know,
What I'm asking
but I'm
you,
trying to tell
Madam,
you that this woman is lying, Your Honor. A mother is obligated to their children to the age of 18.
I'm speaking. I'm speaking, and you're not getting.
I've been supporting her forever.
1, 2.
Okay.
And then you're gone. How do you support yourself? I'm asking you a question. How do you support yourself?
Up until about 2 years ago, a transcriptionist.
How do you support yourself now?
Now I have been disabled. I have been borrowing from General Relief. I had to pay that all back. I have been certified. I went to a hearing. I'm certified disabled for several things. And
listen to me very carefully. If you've been giving your daughter money, and if you've been helping her for the last 2 years with money that you have gotten
Not
from...
2 years.
Listen to me. I'm speaking. Carefully. Carefully. You just told me that up until 2 years ago you were employed as a transcriptionist. Since that time you have not been employed. You were receiving general relief, you were receiving disability. So if you supported your daughter over the last 2 years, you were supporting her since you have to say when you get general relief that you have no income and you have no money, you were supporting her out of state money. You were supporting her out of money that comes from the general population. I don't understand why a mother, if her daughter is disabled, if her daughter is
She's
ill,
not disabled.
if her daughter...
She's not disabled.
Well, neither am I. Your case is dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step
I
out.
can't believe that it came to this. I have been everything to this girl, and I've been giving her all my money, and she's laughing there.
I was kind of hoping that she would win because she's not going to let it go. I want a restraining order now.
She has been coercing me by being nice to me to get more money out of me.
We try, we don't get along, we get along, we don't get along.
There is no relationship. There hasn't been one. I asked her to please go get counseling. I realize now that I'm going to need it also.
Maybe we could, yay, you know, but I don't see us speaking again.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Burnett versus Burnett, step forward.
Drug counselor Frances Burnett is suing her ex-boyfriend, maintenance man Quentin Barnett, for vandalizing her Pontiac Grand Am twice. Frances claims he was caught red-handed both times.
You're not related to each other.
No, ma'am.
But he was your boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you broke up with him.
Yes.
According to what I'm piecing together from your complaint, he didn't take this breakup well.
No, ma'am, he did.
And he vandalized your car, according to you. He came to your job and created a scene, harassing you. You want him to compensate you for both.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burnett says he just wanted to talk, right?
Yes, ma'am.
She didn't want to talk to you. When did he vandalize your car?
On August 26, 2004.
Tell me about it.
Earlier that evening, I had Mr. Burnett had called me stating he wanted to come by my house and talk to me. Mr. Burnett at that time was not welcome at my house, so I told him he could not come.
When had you broken up with him?
The second week in August of 2004.
Do you care to tell me why?
Around that time, my house was broken into, and at that time, I was suspicious of Mr. Burnett, and I asked him to leave my home and ended the relationship.
Was he living with you at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
How long had he been living with you?
About a year.
Why did you think he was somehow responsible for the burglary?
The last 6 months of our relationship was very disruptive. We were into a lot of arguments. I didn't like the type of people he was hanging around, and he was just, you know, suspicious to me.
Tell me what happened on August 26th.
Mr. Burnett called and stated he was coming over to my house. At that point, I sat in my living room looking out the window waiting on him. When I saw him arrive, he did not get out in my driveway. He got out down the street from my house, and I saw him exit a vehicle and walk toward my house. As he walked toward my house, he started to ring the doorbell and knock on the door. At that point, I called the police, and all of a sudden, I heard a noise outside my window. I looked outside my kitchen window where my car was and saw Mr. Burnett vandalizing my car.
What did he do to the car?
He smashed the front windshield. The two rear view mirrors were smashed out, and then he took a iron brick and scarred the whole car up.
Frances Burnett claims ex-boyfriend Quentin Barnett vandalized her car twice. Quentin says it was probably one of her other boyfriends.
You have a police report?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
May I see it, please?
I also have pictures.
I'd like to see those too. Did you have a hissy fit?
No, ma'am.
Did you scratch her car?
No, ma'am.
What did you do to her car?
I didn't do anything to the car. I went over there, she didn't let me in, so I left.
She told you not to come over to begin with.
Yes, she did.
She told you not to come over. What'd you go over there for?
Because I wanted to talk to her.
She didn't want to talk to you.
Well,
Are you trying to tell me you just left?
yeah, I did just leave.
No.
Oh, well, whatever.
Okay. When was the next act of vandalism on the car?
August the 27th.
What happened then?
Earlier that day, Mr. Burnett had been calling me on my job with harassing phone calls and threats.
What did he say?
That he was going to get me, that he was going to call my boss and cost me my job, that he was going to beat my A and everything according to that. He also came up on my job that day and attempted to assault me. As a result of his actions against me on my job, I lost my job, and I have a police report to
I'd like to see it, please. In the year that you were living together, how many times were the police called to your house because of assaults?
Several.
Who assaulted whom?
He got the assault charge.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Why what?
What'd you hit her for?
Because she did something to me.
What did she do to you?
She hit me first, so I hit her back.
Oh, well, if she hit you first, that's the reason. So you hit her back. Is that what you're telling me? Hmm?
Well, I bit her.
You bit her?
On the job.
Sounds like a relationship made in heaven. Tell me what happened on the 27th, please.
Late on that evening, I went home, and that's when my son came to report to me that he was outside slashing the tires on my other car.
Tell me your name.
Gordon.
Did you get along with Mr. Burnett?
Okay.
Do you remember August 27th?
Yes.
Remember what happened with the tires of your mom's other car?
He slashed them.
What time was this?
9:30.
In the evening?
Yes, ma'am.
When you saw him slashing the tires, did you say anything to him? Did you call out to him?
No.
What did you do?
Told her, and she called the police.
Is Gordon lying?
I guess he is, because I ain't do it.
So somebody else slashed her tires?
Yeah.
And somebody else rode all over her car?
Yep.
Well, listen to me. In the year that you lived, year or so that you lived in her house, how many times was her car vandalized?
None. Zero.
None. No, no, no. I'm just trying to get some information, some basic facts from you, sir. In the year that you lived with her,
Zero.
she had 2 cars, and nothing happened to the cars, right?
Yeah, right.
And in the week following her putting you out of the house, both of her cars end up vandalized. What do you think of that? What do you think of that? Isn't that bizarre? How coincidental that is?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's just mind-boggling how those things just happen to come around. Isn't it mind-boggling?
Quite a coinky-dink.
Quite. Can I see the estimates, please, on fixing your car? Mr. Barnett, you got to put a rein in on that temper, sir. You know what the policeman says about you here?
What did he say?
He says you are angry. Were you angry?
He couldn't have said it about me, because I wasn't over there. He must have been talking about somebody else.
Well, no, no, no. It's you. It's you. He says you're angry.
He
said your general appearance was conservative, but your demeanor was angry. Now, tell me what happened when he got to your place of employment, Miss Burnett.
He came on the job. He was very, very disturbed, wanted me to come from around the desk, and I would not.
What kind of work do you do?
Alcohol and drug counselor.
Why did you go to her place of employment, Mr. Barnett?
To talk to her.
She didn't want to talk to you. She told you that before.
Oh, okay.
You're a nice-looking young man. You have a job?
Yes.
What kind of job do you have?
A maintenance man.
So you have a job, you make a living, right?
Yes.
You find another girl, she doesn't like you anymore.
I heard you.
So you're going to leave her alone, right?
Yes.
If you don't, you're going to go to jail. Do you understand? Good. You working now?
No, ma'am.
How long did you have that job?
3 years.
On what date were you let go?
August 30th, 2004.
You caused her to lose her job, Mr. Burnett. Caused thousands of dollars worth of damage to her car. Was your temper tantrum worth it? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
It's number 90 on the calendar in the matter of Farkas versus Bull. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Mr. Farkas, if you tell me the story in as interesting a manner as you wrote it in your papers, it's going to be a fun morning. So, relax and tell me your story.
Well, I was traveling westbound on Sunset Boulevard heading towards Highland. I get to the corner of Highland with a plan to make a right turn. I'm in the far right lane. The light changes. I move forward a foot or yard. All of a sudden, bam! Mr. Bull over here smashes me from the middle lane of Sunset because he's decided to make a right turn onto Highland. So we pull into a strip center right nearby, and you know, I'm reaching for my documents. I'm just trying to compose myself, and he saunters over to my window, and you know, in his way, oh, I'm so sorry I did this. This is terrible. I had my mind on other things, and I'm getting a divorce. I'm saying, please, I don't want to know. Just let's go with the license and registration. So I look at his license.
Divorce? I just got married, so I gotta be getting a divorce.
I'm going to get to you in a second.
I read his license. Dwayne Xavier Bull, license expires in 95. Do you have insurance? No, this I don't have. I look at his license plates, New Mexico license plates. So what are we going to do? He says, I just want to pay for it. Why don't you just take it over to a... So I asked him, what beseeched you? What possessed you to make this turn?
Your Honor,
he says, I saw my boyfriend on Highland Avenue with another man, and I got so upset. I said, I'm not interested. What are you going to do? He says, I'm going to pay. He says, I'm going to pay for it. I tell him, I'm going to go right now to get an estimate, and I'm going to bring it to you, and you'll pay for it, and we'll forget the whole thing. Now, the man, can I show this to the judge, please?
Yeah.
The day, exactly at the incident, I wouldn't leave the scene without him signing this. It clearly says, Dwayne Xavier Bull agrees to pay me. He caused the accident. Fine, so he does it. So what happens next? I call him and call him and call him. No answer. He gives me his pager. His salon is on Sunset. Following morning, I walk into his place of business. I walk in, and this young lady takes over. Divorce, marriage, the French woman, I don't know, but she starts. Excuse me, I will handle this. Dwayne has no money. Well, that's good. That's good. What are we going to do? But we want to fix your car, so we want you to take your car to Vahe.
To who?
Vahe.
Vahe.
So Vahe, the Armenian auto body repair. It's right. There's more documents to establish it. I pick up the telephone. I said, I'm not leaving here till I speak to Vahe, so it's perfectly clear that Vahe fixes my car, he pays for it, and I go home. I call up Vahe, and I say, Vahe, do we understand each other? Dwayne Xavier Bull, I'm going to bring my car to Jenemsveld in the valley somewhere, and you should only know where, I don't know where it is. You have to take a cow to get there. So, Vahe, do we understand each other? You're going to fix the car, and Dwayne Xavier Bull is going to pay for it. He says, no problem. We know Dwayne. You bring your car. You be very happy. Following morning, my wife and kid in tow with the Camry behind us. We're trucking out to no man's land. Oh, excuse me. Here's the document that says that he agrees to pay Varaz Auto Repair when I bring the car to him. Okay. Dwayne, can you give me a chance?
Mr. Bull, I'm going to let you tell the defendant's side of the story as soon as he's finished, okay? Go ahead.
So I get to Varaz. Vahe is a very nice guy. He says, leave the car, no problem. On my way home, I'm telling my wife, there's no shot in the world that this problem is over. Sure enough, like clockwork, Vahe's boss calls me. Bob, the Armenian. Bob, we have a problem. Of course we have a problem. Dwayne Bull didn't come to pay for the car, right. He says, we agreed that he would just pay for the parts, and we'll give him time on the labor. The man doesn't come. So I start calling him, Vahe is calling him, Bob is calling him, the man doesn't return calls. Finally, he threatens me on the telephone. I called West Hollywood Police. He says to me, if you call me and harass me anymore, I'll have people beat you up. I call West Hollywood Police, but they're busy with seatbelts. They can't handle this.
How long are you in California, sir?
Not long.
How long were you in California at the time of this accident?
Unfortunately, only about 60 or 90 days, and although it's not relevant to the case, 45 days before this incident, I move into a house on April 4th, and the following day I wake up in the morning and the house is on fire. I'm carrying my baby out in the fire at 2 o'clock in the morning. And if I make, oh yes, we heard it enough? Well, here's an official document from the fire department establishing that happened. I know it's not relevant. I'm sorry.
It has nothing to do with the case.
Okay, so did you get your car?
I actually paid for it yesterday for a full month. I mean, this man wreaked havoc on my life.
How much was the...
$1,800.
It was 19 at first.
Excuse me.
You want to pay 19?
He changes his figures.
Excuse me. The day I came to his salon, I showed him the first estimate that I told him I would get was for 18 and change. Varaz, his own people, estimated at 1,800. And that's what I paid for it, and I'm
$1,800.
$1,800. So this is his own people. This is Baja's estimate.
Okay, Mr. Bull, you've been anxious to tell me your side of the story. Now I'm prepared to hear you, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Repair, Mr.
Oh,
Farkas'
you and your
car.
papers. Come
He
on.
agreed to pay for the repair. He never came by to pay for it.
Paper.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dwayne Bull, a Hollywood hair and makeup specialist, says his collision with actor Peter Farkas on Sunset Boulevard was Farkas's fault, and he shouldn't have to pay for the damage.
Now I'm prepared to hear you, sir.
Okay, Your Honor, the way I see it is, yes, he is correct. I was traveling west on Sunset Boulevard.
Stop playing with the papers. Talk to me.
Okay, I was just looking for a little document I wanted to show you as an exhibit. Okay, here it is. I was traveling west. Could you pass this to her, please? I was traveling west on Sunset Boulevard. Now, he was in the far right-hand turning lane, and it was 5 o'clock traffic. I truly believe that he was in that lane because on Sunset Boulevard, people get in that lane to speed to go fast. Your Honor, the way I was hit on the way my car personally was hit, if you look at the estimate, it was hit on my right side front door. Okay, so what I did was I put a signal to turn right. I think he was in this lane to go forward because he was not in our sight, nor did he have a signal.
So you weren't
he hit my car.
You weren't in the far right lane, correct?
No, I wasn't.
Not.
I signaled to go.
You were not in the far right lane. You were in the center lane.
Yes. No, the lane next to the far right lane.
But he was in the far right lane.
Yes, right. Exactly.
So you went to make a right turn.
No, I signaled to
You
make a
went
right
to
turn.
make a right turn.
Yes.
And you were not in the far right lane.
No.
Right. You got out of the car. You went over to this gentleman. You signed a piece of paper indicating that you were prepared to pay for the damage, right?
Yes. I had not even had the car a day, okay? And yes, I was nervous because I did not have insurance. And yes, I was nervous.
You didn't have
because
insurance.
I didn't have insurance, and I didn't have a driver's license.
That's right.
Okay, so yes, I really was nervous.
So you didn't want, listen to me.
So I didn't want trouble with the police department.
That's
but
right.
not only that, he got personal with me. He asked me, was I gay, okay? And I responded, no, he was coming on to me at the time. And I played with the party too. Yes, I'm married, but of course I'm gonna play into it because I didn't want the police. And I felt if he thought I was gay, then maybe he liked me. It's obvious, he's Nelly.
Okay, Mr. Bull. Now he
this
comes.
is true.
I want you to stop talking. Listen to me. I'm going to ask questions. You're going to answer them. He came to your salon. Now he got to Viha, the Armenian, through you. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm being totally honest. I was nervous. That's the only reason I signed this paper. I did not want to go to jail. Okay. My wife told me, listen, this guy is at fault. He's in our business, and he's screaming irate loud. He's from New York. He's obnoxious. It's obvious he's obnoxious. Look at him. Okay? He calls on my phone repeatedly. He tells me about his house caught on fire, how his kids are hungry. He needs his van to transport his kids. All this irrelevant stuff while I have very important clients that are there. In fact, my wife is here. It's proof that I had a client that sit there in the chair when I disputed with him for 20 minutes in my business, screaming because he has no patience and he acts immature. He screamed, and I lost the client. She requested her $150 deposit back for, the services that were being rendered, her hair extension. I am a popular hairstylist, and only thing I ever stated to this man is that when you want to speak to me, you do not call me at home and you make an appointment like everybody else.
Is that what is? Just
Yes.
a minute. Have we now completed your side of the story?
No, I have one more thing to say.
I'm ready to hear you, sir.
Your Honor, again, yes, I admit that my driver's license had expired. But again, from the way my car was hit, he said I hit him. It's obvious he hit me. From the way
That's really not urgently important, sir. I'm going to tell you why. Mr. Farkas had the right at that time, because there was an accident, to pick up the phone and call the police to have them come to the accident.
But why didn't he?
Why? Because sir,
I had.
No, because you had problems with your license too. I'm almost certain you did. You had some kind of problem.
You looked at my license and said, you're a typical Gemini. That was his comment.
Mr. Bull, you, sir, had no insurance and did not want the police to come because you were also driving with a suspended license. He gave up the right to call the police, to have the police come and make a determination based upon, don't interrupt me, based upon what they saw, whose fault this accident was. You said to him at the time...
He never mentioned police.
I will take care of the damage, and you signed a piece of paper indicating you would take care of the damage.
I signed that paper again because I was nervous.
Well, I don't care whether
anybody
you're nervous or
signs
not.
paper. I mean,
I'm
under
not,
pressure.
listen.
I mean,
I want
was
you to
nervous.
I want you to get not nervous,
My
Mr.
personal
Bull.
lifestyle had nothing to do with this case whatsoever. And for him to mention those things about my personal, I think that it was very irrelevant. And it's obvious that, again, from the way the position my car was hit, that it was his fault. But of course, he's not going to admit it.
Your Honor, I was doing.
And you did real good.
I was doing the man a favor.
Doing me a favor.
He's telling me about his wife
me a
problems.
favor.
Telling me about the two-timing boyfriend. I mean, the man's got, you know, his sexual confidence. He's a menace on the road.
Mr. Farkas. Mr. Farkas.
I'm sorry. What the hell's so funny?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
He has no idea what my feelings are if I like to ride bicycles. He doesn't know that about
I
me.
dated him for 6 months. We've been friends for 9 months since then.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Mr. Farkas, you paid the $1,800 to have your
I
car
did.
fixed? Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,800. The defendant's counterclaim for harassment and all sorts of other things is dismissed.
Thank you, Judge.
Goodbye.
Is our excuse, you may step out.
But you were very smart about getting those papers, because that's the only reason why you won this case. But other than that, she would have looked at it for my way. And another, I just think it's because you're blonde and blue-eyed.
I am absolutely convinced that Mr. Bull had his name shortened.
And now the next case.
All parties on Ryder versus Pullman. Step forward.
30-year-old marketing director Kirk Ryder says he loaned his bicycle to his ex-boyfriend Klaus Pullman, and it was stolen. So now Klaus should pay.
All right. Mr. Ryder, you say that you lent a bicycle to the defendant, and he had it in his possession for a long time, and then through his negligence, the bicycle was stolen. You want your money for the bicycle.
Well, I wanted a new bicycle, basically.
Did you lend him a new bicycle?
Pardon me? No,
What didn't you understand, sir?
I wanted my bicycle back.
Well, he couldn't give you your bicycle back.
Right. So we entered
So my
into...
question to you is, did you lend him a new bicycle?
No, I did not.
How old was the bicycle that you lent to him?
The bicycle was 3 years old.
And had you purchased it?
No.
How did you get it?
It was, I inherited it from my best friend who died.
And what kind of bicycle was this?
It was a Univega Via Modego, 15-speed, hybrid bicycle.
What happened to a Schwinn?
I don't know.
Schwinns are more expensive now.
Are they?
Yeah.
I'm glad to see if they're still in business. At least it doesn't date me.
They are.
All right. So you had the bicycle for how long before you lent it to him?
I had the bicycles since July 1996, when my friend died, and Klaus borrowed it in or around November, I guess. I'm not even sure.
Well, then I gather you weren't using it much.
Well, I was traveling. I travel for a living, so I don't know which trip he borrowed it before. He borrowed it because his car broke down in the desert, and he was using his bicycle to get around. Then the bicycle he was using that he owned broke, and I offered to lend him mine.
So far, does that sound right?
Yes, except for when he loaned it to me.
When did he loan it to you?
In June, in the summer.
Of '96.
Of '96.
What happened to his bike?
It was stolen.
Mr. Pullman, you understand that the bike is in your possession, then you have a responsibility to either replace it or to give him some compensation for it.
He neglected the bicycle. He didn't want the bicycle. It didn't work. It sat in his dining room for 2 years while he was traveling.
Objection.
It didn't work.
Your Honor. What? Sorry. Well, he has no, that's speculation. He has no idea whether I wanted the bicycle or not. I, out of the goodness of my heart, lent him a bicycle that had some emotional value to me as well as physical value of getting around.
So it doesn't seem to me, I mean, have you been friends for long? It's just too bad that this bicycle is presenting a problem to you. Why don't you just replace the bicycle?
because he didn't want the bicycle. He left it. I took care of it. I didn't neglect it. I locked it with my bike, with my roommate's bicycle. It was in my garage. All three were stolen. He didn't want it. He liked it in my garage and not in his dining room. That's why I had it for so long. He didn't want to come get it. He wouldn't let me return it. He travels a lot, so it was his schedule that was in question. I work at home. I'm always there. He neglected the bike. He gave it to me. He didn't give it to me. He loaned it to me. Asked
right.
me to keep it for him.
He loaned you the bike.
I took care of it.
Good.
I housed it.
Good.
It was stolen. It's out of my control.
Right.
He neglected the bike a year ago. He loaned it to me a year ago this month.
Your Honor.
Yes. Well,
He moved 2 blocks away from my house when he
Doesn't make
moved
any
to West
difference,
Hollywood.
Mr. Pullman.
He could have returned it.
Mr.
And
Pullman.
also, wait, one more thing. I believe that he did neglect the bike because I lent him the bike with a kryptonite lock, and he did not use that lock. He used a chain which could be cut easily.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. Kirk Ryder says his ex-boyfriend Klaus Pullman should pay for the bicycle he borrowed because it was stolen while in his possession.
the only thing that I have to decide is on a value of this bicycle because you did not purchase it. To replace it is a problem because to replace it, what you're seeking is the full replacement value of the bike, which is, you say, $399 to replace a bike of similar quality. Is that what you indicated?
Which is actually less than the bike that was stolen is valued at.
Well, bicycles, listen to me, sir. Bicycles are not like diamonds. They don't appreciate in value.
Oh, I know that.
They depreciate in value. So if it had been bought for $500, it depreciates probably 50% in the first year that somebody has it. So then you're down to $250. That's after 1 year. So you're not going to get anywhere near what this bicycle would cost new. But you have to pay something to him, sir. You accepted it into your care. That's what we call almost a bailment. Even if he was storing it at your house and you agreed to accept it for storage, right, you have a certain responsibility towards it. You said something about this lock.
It's a standard bicycle kryptonite lock. He loaned it to me with the bicycle, but he didn't loan me the key.
So what'd you do with his lock?
The lock is with the bicycle. It stayed with the bicycle. It has a holder for it.
Okay.
Which I couldn't get off without a key.
A tire pump and also a water bottle and cage. All accessories to the bike, which added to the value.
Mr. Ryder, stop getting so excited. It's a bicycle. It's a bicycle that you didn't ride and you didn't miss for a year.
I did ride, Your Honor.
You're irritating me. Listen to me. From the time you lent it to him until March of this year, according to your own statement, you really did not make a request for this bike.
I made one request.
Wait, so evidently
no,
it wasn't
I made two.
Evidently it wasn't something that was right at the forefront, the signpost on your face. You know, it was
well,
just
I didn't ride it because it wasn't in my possession. I had loaned it to a friend. That's why I was not riding the bicycle.
And your friend is going to give you $150 that you can use towards purchasing a new bike. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $150. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Parties on Woods versus LaBelle. Step forward, please.
42-year-old purchasing agent Elizabeth Woods is suing her son, 19-year-old Brian LaBelle, for taking money from her bank account.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 447 on the calendar in the matter of Woods versus LaBelle. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mrs. Woods, your complaint is pretty distressing.
Yes, it is.
Because you claim that your son stole your bank card, withdrew money.
Yes.
So I must assume that you've had some frustrations with him in the past to even suggest that he would do such a thing to you. And after thinking that he would do such a thing, sue him for the money. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Especially since, according to this, you don't have any direct proof that he took the money.
I have no direct proof, no eyewitness.
Well, why don't you tell me why you believe he took this money first?
I had the card on during the day on Christmas Eve. When I came into my house, I didn't put the card in my wallet. I set it on the counter in my kitchen. I live alone. My parents came over to visit that evening. They were the only other people in that house.
Was your son living with you or was he visiting?
No, he came over to visit while my parents were still there. The area of the kitchen countertop where I put that card is right near my cordless phone. During the visit, Brian took the cordless phone and went to the back of my mobile home. He went into the bathroom, he said, to use the phone because it was too noisy out in the living room. Shortly after the conversation on the phone, Brian put on the new winter coat that my mom and dad and I had bought him for Christmas, and he left. My other daughter, Amy, and her son came over to visit after Brian had left. So the only people in my house all day long, up until the point the card disappeared, were my parents, Brian, and myself.
Well, when did you first notice the card missing?
I had gone into my purse looking for the card a few days later, but...
So that your daughter did come over?
Yes.
Your daughter and who else?
Her son. He's 2.5.
Well, he didn't take the bank cards. But your daughter did come over?
Yes, she did.
And you didn't notice the bank card missing until after your daughter left?
Right. It was several days later.
Nobody else was in and out of your house between Christmas Day and the day that you finally discovered the bank card missing?
No one else.
How much money was withdrawn?
$470.
Now, where was the PIN number?
That took me a little time to figure out how that all happened. But several weeks before Christmas Eve, Brian was over visiting, and my other daughter was there, and the little boy again. And Brian brought up in the conversation, I think when I get my income tax check, I'm going to open a checking account. He started the conversation about PIN numbers. And does the bank assign one, or how do you do that? And my daughter blurted out what hers was in reference to it being the birthday of a relative. And I did the same.
Well, when you realized your bank card was missing, what did you do?
I thought I had left it in the house because my last memory of the bank card was setting it on that counter in the kitchen. So I went to the bank and cashed a check. Several days after that, one of my colleagues had come in to my office from one of our out-of-town locations, and I was going to take her to dinner. My daughter came to my office at my request. I wrote her out a check and said, please run to the bank and cash this check. I need money for dinner tonight. She came back from the bank as white as a ghost and said, Mom, you've got a problem. There's no money in your account. I called the bank to find out what the problem was, and they started to read me off withdrawal, $50 on Christmas Eve, $20 on December 29th.
Do you have a listing of those?
Yes, I do.
Let me take a look at it. And in total, it was $470?
Yes, plus accumulated bank fees.
Brian, how old are you?
19.
How long haven't you been living at home?
I lived there on and off. I've probably been out of there 3 years.
You know anything about this bank card?
No, I don't. The first I heard about it was after I had moved out of state. And it wasn't told directly to me, it was told to my sister. She told me about it, and the first thing I heard about it after that was being called, telling me that there was a lawsuit against me.
Is this the other daughter that you were talking about?
No, this is my oldest daughter. She lives in Louisiana.
Would you tell your mother if you took the bank card?
If I had taken it, yes, I would have told her. I didn't take the card. I had no reason to take it. As far as the conversation with the PIN numbers and anything, I don't recall any of that.
Where's your younger daughter?
She's at home. I didn't think her testimony was going to be at all pertinent because she really didn't eyewitness anything.
All right, so my next question, Mrs. Woods, is, now I understand your lawsuit. My question to you is, what do you hope to accomplish from this lawsuit?
I want him to own up to his responsibility. I want him to understand that living off of other people or lying to people or stealing from people is not the way to live your life. And if you've done something wrong, be a man. Stand up for it. Take the responsibility and accept the consequences.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It hurts that I would be accused of stealing the card. I did not take the card. I have no use for your money.
And later today,
she had expressed the desire to have breast implants done. I loved her the way she was. She didn't have to do that for me.
He wanted this as much as I did. Why should I pay him back?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Elizabeth Woods says her son, Brian LaBelle, stole her bank card and tricked her into giving him the PIN code.
Who do you think took her bank card and had her PIN number?
I really have no idea.
Well, it was you or your sister. That's what it comes down to, right?
Okay, well,
Unless it was your grandparents. I'm going to eliminate the grandparents. But the truth of the matter is, Miss Woods, it could have been either Brian or his sister, because both of them were in your house prior to the time that you found the bank card missing. You choose to believe, for whatever reason, that Brian was the one who took it because of his history, lifestyle, whatever, his need for money.
I also believe that he took it because of his spending shortly before he left for Louisiana, he left for Louisiana on the 3rd of January, which was the exact day that $250 was withdrawn from my checking account. I have been told by Brian's friends, and whether it's admissible or not.
It isn't.
Okay.
That he spent a lot of money.
Not a lot of money, but for someone who isn't working, was evicted from his apartment for non-payment of rent, had his car impounded by the city, $10 is a lot of money.
Brian, you're 19. That's not entirely cooked and ready for adult life, but it seems to me you're living on your own. What do you want to do with yourself?
Did
you graduate from high school?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
I had a lot of problems in school.
What kind of problems?
I lost a lot of interest. I mean, it happens sometimes. I had problems with other kids in school. I had problems with teachers in school. And my mistake was I left school. I didn't go back.
So what do you want to do with yourself?
I've been keeping myself straight other than this, and, I've worked for what I have. I don't have much.
That's not an answer to my question, Brian. It's really not an answer to my question. You're 19 years old, you have no education, but you're living on your own. Now, you can flounder through life, but you look like an intelligent, and you sound like you're an intelligent young man who's going nowhere. I think probably that's your mother's frustration. That she's just sad because you seem to be without direction. You are without direction, I mean, just living hand to mouth, getting a job, getting a meaningless job when you're 19 and sticking with it means that you're going to spend 40 years of your life or more doing something that you're not particularly fond of. You won't make a living. You sort of aimlessly wander through life. What do you want to do?
I like to be able to afford everything I need. I like the line of work I do. When I do...
What kind of work do you do?
I worked as a construction laborer and a laborer in a pallet yard.
But you don't do it all the time?
No.
Why not?
I was laid off from my last job due to transportation problems. I missed a lot of work. I was in the process of buying a car because the car I was driving at the time wasn't reliable. Like I said, I missed a lot of time off of work from that, and they saw it as not needing me around because they wanted somebody who was going to be there all the time. Other than that, I mean, I've held a job pretty well.
Brian, either you took this card or your sister took it. So you think your sister took it?
I know I didn't take it. I don't want to accuse her of taking it because I know there are other people in and out of her house, whether she says there are or not.
People could have taken the card, but nobody else had the PIN number, which would have given them access to the money.
I didn't have the PIN number either.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I still love you. I want you to get your act together. You can't go through life like this.
And later today,
after this motorcycle rally, she had expressed the desire to have breast implants done because there's a lot of skin that's shown up there in Sturgis.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Elizabeth Woods says her son, Brian LaBelle, stole her bank card and tricked her into giving him the PIN code.
Mrs. Woods, as I said to you when we started, it's a sad situation when a parent brings a child to court, sues a child, especially a 19-year-old child, because they're hardly cooked. I mean, whatever frustrations you've had with him, and I assume, even based upon what he says, you've had some frustrations with him for a long time. But this is still a court, and a court has to deal with evidence and proof. Right now, we have a situation where your credit card was missing, but there were at least 4 people who were in your home who had access to that card when you left it on the kitchen counter. You had your parents, you had Brian, and you had your younger daughter. And but for the fact that he's perhaps spent a couple of dollars during the Christmas holiday, there really is no proof that Brian, as opposed to the other people who had access to that card and access to your home, were the ones who took it. So a court can't operate under supposition. That is unfair. You understand that? So I am forced to dismiss your lawsuit against your son. Brian, I don't know whether you took this card or not. There is insufficient proof that you did. But you look like a nice young person. And you certainly are intelligent. I don't think that you are optimally using all the gifts that God gave you. Do you?
No.
So you better start, because as I said to you before, life is not a dress rehearsal. You only go around once. Okay? That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back to your right.
I am very disappointed. I still love my son very much.
It hurts that I would be accused of stealing the card. I did not take the card. I have no use for your money. If this is the way that you feel about me, then fine, that be it.
I still love you. I want you to get your act together. You can't go through life like this. You got away with it this time, but the next time you might not be so lucky.
There was nothing to get away with.
And now the next case.
Parties on Donahue versus Pratt. Step forward, please.
38-year-old police officer Mark Donahue is suing his ex-girlfriend, exotic dancer Cynthia Pratt, 30, for not repaying a loan for her breast implants.
Mr. Donahue, according to your complaint, sir, you made a loan to the defendant in order for her to have breast augmentation surgery. You gave her $2,350.
Yes, Your Honor.
You broke up, she won't pay you back.
That's correct.
Okay, so why don't you tell me how this loan came about, sir?
Well, Cindy and I started dating in January 1996 and up until November 1997. In August of 1996, we went to Sturgis, South Dakota. It's a motorcycle rally annual event that happens there. And after this motorcycle rally, she had expressed the desire to have breast implants done because there's a lot of skin that's shown up there in Sturgis.
We talked about it before.
So we had discussed it up until, well, the beginning of 1997. She decided that she was going to go ahead and go through with it, and she had told me that she was not going to go to Sturgis in 1997, that the following August, if she didn't have it done. She made an appointment for the surgery. The date was set. She was working at the time, and she had the funding arranged. She was working for a mortgage company and had several loans that she was going to close, so she had the funding arranged for it. And I had been telling her all along that, you know, don't do this for me, do it for yourself. If, you know, I loved her the way she was. So the day of the surgery came, and she had not had the funding because her loans had fallen through that she was going to close. But we had talked about me loaning her the money, and that I would only be able to loan her half the money, and she would be able to provide the other half. So we went to my credit union, and I withdrew $2,350 to make up for the in addition to the $1,650 that she had.
So she had enough?
$4,000, yes.
Okay.
And so after I withdrew the checks, I had her sign a promissory note that was notarized at the credit union.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Surgery was done. You broke up several months later.
Yes.
Were any payments made whatsoever within the 2 months that this promissory note indicates the balance was to be fully paid?
None whatsoever.
Okay.
Yes, there was.
She had made reference that periodically she would say, well, I need to pay you back. I know I owe you that money, but I don't have it. But I never saw a dime of it. I've not seen one cent of that
Marcus, you
money.
did.
Miss Pratt, don't talk to him. Are you finished now, sir?
Yes.
Good. I'll hear you.
My very first check that I had got with my first loan that closed, I did sign it over.
Don't talk to him.
I signed it over to him.
And how much was that for?
I don't even remember. It was a long time ago. I don't even remember.
Your Honor,
It
she
was-
never.
Shh. You would know if you gave him any money. This wasn't so long ago. It was less than a year ago.
Correct, but I did sign over a check to him. I believe it was only a couple $100s. I really don't remember how much the amount was.
All right, so assuming that that's true, assuming that you got a check and you signed it over to him for a couple of $100. This note says that it's to be paid within 2 months. Now, I read your answer. I don't know what your defense is. You want to tell me what your defense is?
Mark knew that I wasn't going to be able to pay him back. After my job had changed and my commission had turned into a salary, he knew that I couldn't afford it. I was stressing on by just making ends meet. And I told Mark, I said, you know, I'm never going to be able to pay you back. And he said, I know. And it never came up again. We never discussed it. Nothing. It was never brought up again of me paying him back. So I just assumed that I didn't need to pay him back. Why should I pay him back? He knew that he wanted this as much as I did.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You have to decide what your theory of defense is, Miss Pratt. Okay? Theory of defense. Does that ring a note to you?
Mm-hmm.
Either you owed him the money because you agreed that it was a loan, or you don't owe him the money because he wanted you to have the surgery as much as you did, and it was a gift. Now, which is your theory of defense?
I'd say it was a gift. I never asked for the money.
Okay, that's your theory. So your theory of defense, I just want to understand this. And Bird wants to understand this.
I do.
Your theory of defense is that it's a gift. Is that right?
Yeah.
You picked the wrong one. Because if your theory of defense is, madam, that it's a gift, then you don't sign a promissory note. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,350. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Excuse you, may step out. Number 551 on the calendar in the matter of Entreri versus Woodcock. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Mr. Woodcock, you're a real estate broker, is that correct?
That is correct.
And Miss Centreri, you reside in an apartment in a building that's going to be sold.
Was
sold.
No, was going to be.
Was going to be sold. And according to your complaint, you're home one day, ill from work.
No, I'm disabled, actually.
You were home?
Yes, I was.
And the defendant broke into your apartment?
That's correct.
I didn't break into nobody's apartment.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Just now.
Yeah.
That I said according to her complaint,
Right.
Mr. Woodcock.
Okay,
That's
that's
what
fine.
happened. You're going to tell me your version of the events,
Right.
sir. So since you knew that this building was going to be sold, I assume that you had made arrangements with regard to showing your apartment, correct?
Yes, in the past it was done regularly.
Tell me
several
about
times.
the procedure.
The procedure was, it was multiple listings, and the realtor would telephone, send notice by mail, and speak with my husband in general, make arrangements for a specific day and time that was convenient for both of us, and we would make our home available for showing.
And during what period of time, Miss Entreri, did you show your apartment?
This was over a period of probably about 4 months.
And how many times did you actually make yourself available to show the apartment?
I know of at least 4 times that individuals came in and viewed the flat.
Now, when did this occur, this instance with Mr. Woodcock?
Well, on May 13th, I was home. I suffer from severe arthritis from an auto accident, and I was home convalescing. It was in the afternoon. I was home in my bedclothes, and the doorbell rang. Well, I wasn't expecting company. I live in the Haight-Ashbury district, and unless you're expecting someone, basically you don't answer your door. For that reason, we have a gate in the front of our building, as most
Mr.
people
Woodcock,
do.
you may want to listen to this, sir.
As most people do in the neighborhood. About 5-10 minutes later, the doorbell rang again, except it rang urgently. And so I got up, I went to my window. We live in a Victorian flat, so this is quite a distance from the back to the front. And I look out the window, I see no one I recognize, and I see...
How many people did you see?
I saw 2 people.
Okay.
And an old vehicle. And again, I did not answer because I don't know who this is. I'm home alone. Thereafter, I hear what appears to be someone dismantling my front door. And shaken, upset, I phone 911. And I speak with the 911 operator, tell her that it sounds like someone is breaking into my home. And she holds me on the line, and it gets to the point where it sounds like someone's kicking the door in. By this time, I am shaking like a leaf, trying to figure out, should I run? Should I try to defend myself? What exactly to do? Thereafter, the 911 operator informs me that it is safe to go downstairs. We have about 30 stairs, and because the police had arrived. When I get downstairs, again in my bedclothes, I find the police along with Mr. Woodcock, who I didn't know from Adam at the time, because my husband generally would show the house.
Okay, you didn't know him. The police were there.
And Mr. Woodcock asked me boldly, why didn't you open your door?
Right.
Shh, shh.
I ignore him because this is just ridiculous. I'm actually irate.
Describe your front door.
I have pictures, Your Honor.
Can I see it, please?
And this is what was broken into. First the gate, then the door, then the chain was kicked off.
No, that's not. No, wait a minute. Now,
And
stop.
that's
I've had enough of this. Wait a minute.
Hey,
No,
listen,
no. Wait a second, please. Hey.
Don't. Hey.
No,
Jay!
Okay, all right. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Your Honor, I wasn't even positive that they had completely entered until I found that piece of chain that was part of the, chain on the floor.
Okay. And that's what happened that day, correct?
That's what happened, except that it left me shaking, like a leaf, crying. I had to call my physician for medication to calm down. It went downhill after that into ulcers because he continued to harass myself and my family.
Okay. Now, my question to you is, had either you or your husband received notice in writing that someone was going to be showing your apartment on May 13th?
I'm glad you asked me that question. We received notice for the 14th.
Can I see it, please?
The following day.
Can I see it, please?
No one showed up on that day.
So to answer my question, madam, you received no notice that someone was going to be there the 13th. The notice that you received, which is dated May 12th, indicates that someone would be there on Wednesday, May 14th.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, Your Honor, I'd like to step in because we had an arrangement because it was
Who are
kind
you?
of rough. I'm Mrs. Venturi's husband.
Okay.
We had an arrangement with the realty company because it kind of got off to a shaky start, showing the property. And so we had an arrangement. They would call and they would let us know.
What you're telling me is not necessarily important to this right
in
now.
advance.
Sure. Shh, shh, shh.
Okay.
Listen to me.
Sure.
Your wife was very articulate. She explained that to me.
Okay.
She said they would call and write.
Okay.
Got to pay attention to your wife.
All right.
They're usually very smart, sir.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Mr. Trary.
And my husband
Mr.
knows.
Trary, I'm very smart. They don't keep me here because I'm gorgeous.
And I'm not saying it ruined you.
I'm very smart.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephanie Intrieri is suing real estate agent Paul Woodcock for breaking into her home unannounced, leaving her frightened and in tears.
Now I'll hear you, Mr. Woodcock.
I didn't think it ever was going to come.
Sir, let me explain something to you. Have I been respectful to you?
Yes?
I will continue to be respectful to
Well-
you. You have to know where you are. Now, let's start over again. Like you just came in and like I don't know who you are. Would you like Mr. Woodcock to tell me your version of the events?
Yes.
Good.
I have documentation for everything.
Just tell me.
Well, I had an appointment set for the date that we came out to the building.
Okay, let me stop you there. How did you set up that appointment, sir?
I had my secretary call over there, and then I also had it sent
That's a
over
lie.
by letter, by mail. And
Just a second.
Yes.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
see your letter by mail.
All right. Here. I had several. Yeah, these right here are fine. There's like 5 or 6 of them right in here. All this is.
They had not called, and we did not
If
receive
you,
that letter.
if you shout out again, I'm going to put you outside. Do you understand? Is it? Well, let me explain something to you, sir. Let me stop you right there. There is a letter dated May 12th, which is clearly under your signature, and it indicates that the property would be inspected on May 14th. Okay, that is a letter dated May 12th.
Right.
Now, there is a prior letter dated May the 6th,
Right.
where you indicate that the property would be shown on Tuesday,
Right.
May 13th. But the subsequent letter of May 12th indicates a day later, Wednesday, May 14th. Okay. And I have the original with your original signature, a copy of which is contained in your file. Okay, so what happened when you got there, sir?
Well, when I got there, the tenants downstairs allowed myself and the contractor and the appraiser and the lender in. And the thing is that what happened was I rang Mrs. Intrieri's bell several times, knocked on the door several times, could not get in, and she didn't answer. And so after that happened, I called the attorney that was handling the estate for the seller. And I said to her, I says, I need to get into the building. I had this set up, and if you can really, got letters in there regarding this as well. So I had my associate with here, Mr. Gallen, and I used his cell phone to call, who then instructed me, because I had everyone out there. And it wasn't like it wasn't planned in advance.
It wasn't planned in
I mean, it
advance?
wasn't planned. You know.
Just a second, sir.
Yeah.
It wasn't planned with her.
Well,
Mr. Woodcock, it wasn't planned with her.
well, I don't know how she cannot say that, but I mean, I had my secretary write the letter. I have the correspondence inside there.
Sir, it's right here. This is your secretary. This is your signature.
Right.
It said that you would be there on Wednesday,
Right.
May 14th. You arrived a day early.
No, well,
And Your Honor.
Shut!
yeah, all right, forget about it.
No, Mr. Woodcock,
No,
you
I mean-
arrived a day early, sir.
Well, if I remember correctly, what had happened is I called the attorney. The attorney got a hold of Miss Intrieri here, Miss Intrieri, and to set the appointment. I'm just trying to recollect exactly what transpired in between.
You can't tell me what transpired between the attorney, sir, and the plaintiff, or between the attorney and yourself, because that's hearsay, Mr. Woodcock.
All right.
But what I'm telling you is that your last communication to the plaintiff, which was dated May the 12th, indicated that you would be there on the 14th, which is Wednesday, for an inspection. Now, you arrived on the 13th for an inspection, and so you told me you got there. The people downstairs allowed you to come in.
Right.
You went upstairs. You rang the bell.
No, I didn't go upstairs because I couldn't go upstairs. I rang the bell to go upstairs.
Yes.
And the thing is that when I could not get in, I used Mike's cell phone, called the attorney.
But not to call
No,
me.
Excuse me. I mean,
hey, listen. You have to be quiet.
Okay, but he could have called me.
Hey!
Okay.
He's speaking.
I mean,
it's his turn.
Yeah.
He can have it.
Miss Entreri, don't irritate me.
Okay.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
But it is a situation that you don't know how it's going to affect you until it happens.
Of course.
That's how I would have felt.
Of course.
prior
I
to it
understand that.
happening.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephanie Intrieri wants $5,000 from real estate agent Paul Woodcock for breaking into her home. He says he had an appointment.
You used a cell phone without telling me what the conversation was with this other person that you dealt with, because that's hearsay. What did you do after you got off the cell phone?
Well, after I got off the cell phone, I called the locksmith.
And you had the locksmith come over to the house.
Correct.
And the locksmith did what?
Picked the locks.
Okay. How many locks did the locksmith pick?
2.
Okay.
I believe it was 2. The front gate. No, wait a minute. I think we're already inside. It was her locks. Are the ones that we started to pick. Or he started to pick, because I'm not a locksmith.
And then the police arrived.
Then the police arrived.
Okay. Now, how long had you been the real estate agent for this property?
Oh, I don't know. 45 days, I guess.
Okay. So, my question is, how many units are in this whole complex? 2 units. And in the 45 days that you were the realtor, did you at any time go out to inspect the plaintiff's apartment?
Yes.
On how many occasions?
I believe once I was actually able to get in.
And were you the first realtor that was attached to this property, or had there been one prior to you?
To my knowledge, no. I was the only one.
Excuse me, Your Honor, there actually were others because it was multiple listings initially.
Did you have an exclusive on this
Yes.
property? For how long?
90 days.
90 days starting when?
It's in the file. You have the file, Judge.
Can I see what you
This
have?
is another real estate company who was involved in the sale of the property, not Mason McDuffie, as Ms.
Shh. There was a prior realty company, sir, with regard to the same property. Okay, so that's the case. It's not a very difficult case.
Your Honor, if I may add.
About what?
About what happened to me after this incident, because I do feel that it's relevant.
You told me that you were stressed. You told me that you had ulcers. You told me that you had
And
that you were sick.
I didn't mention I had insomnia. We went on vacation. I'm getting up all in the middle of the night wherever I went, checking the locks in the middle of the night.
Miss Entreri.
And I never
Miss
had
Entreri.
ulcers before. I just
Miss
wanted
Entreri,
to add
I
that.
can't tell you without expert testimony,
I do
which I
have.
assume you do not have.
I do, from my physician.
I don't take letters from physicians.
It's his notes.
Did you hear what I just said? I do not take letters, notes from physicians unless I can actually examine them as to whether your ulcer was caused by this incident. Do you understand?
He specifically mentions the incident. And
Okay, whether he specifically mentions the incident, you specifically mentioned the incident.
Okay, and he can be telephoned.
Listen to me, madam. I sometimes get off the bench and go to the phone and make a phone call. Not in this case. I understand exactly what happened. You were in your bedroom. You were not expecting these people, clearly based upon this. You had no reason to expect anyone there that day. You were frightened out of your wits for a while. It lasted a relatively short period of time until the police arrived, but during that 5 to 10 or 15 minutes that it was going on, you were scared to death. I understand that. Don't tell me that it clouded your entire life for the remainder of your entire life, because that's a lot of baloney. That's a lot of, because at the moment, once it was over, it's like, you know, being in a terrible accident, you know? You're frightened and it's terrible, but if you're a smart person and are not using it to milk a system, then you say, I'm going to put a period. I understand what it was. It was somebody who was doing the wrong thing. They were not trying to burglarize my home, right? He did the wrong thing. Miss Intreri.
But it is a situation that you don't know how it's going to affect you until it happens.
Of course.
That's how I would have felt.
Of course. I understand that. Miss Intreri.
And my husband
Miss Intreri,
knows.
I'm very smart. They don't keep me here because I'm gorgeous.
And I'm not saying it ruins you.
I'm very smart.
I'm not saying
I'm very smart. You can be as serious as you like. I understand. I understand
but
that
it was very traumatic, particularly when you have other injuries
I understand,
already.
madam, that it was very traumatic. For that 15 minutes, it was traumatic.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
He could stand there and he can shake his head, no, no, no. But truth of the matter is, whether his secretary screwed up in sending this letter and got her dates wrong, or whether the appointment was changed by him, I am not satisfied that you received adequate notice. And he had absolutely no right, even, quite frankly, if you had been notified and if you weren't there, you paid rent on the apartment, he has no right to break into your apartment. And if he's relying on some conversation that he had with a lawyer, let him go sue the lawyer, because he's going to pay you $3,000. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. The calendar in the matter of Iarusi versus Kramer. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have seats, please.
Well, this is a rather interesting complaint. Mr. Iarusi, according to your complaint, you became involved with the defendant's campaign when he decided to run for mayor of New York City. And I gather from your papers and from his response that he decided to run for mayor because he had developed a certain celebrity, because the character of Kramer from that wonderful Seinfeld program was fashioned after him. Is that right, sir?
This is a fact, Your Honor.
You're much better looking.
Thank you.
So you became involved with this fiasco because
Yes, Your Honor.
even I'm sure Mr. Kramer over here knew that it was a fiasco.
I don't think so, Your Honor.
Well, listen.
That was a serious intent at the time I began this campaign.
Mr. Kramer, New York City is an interesting place. And I've lived in New York most of my adult life. And having seen you, sir, and having watched your character for many, many years, I will tell you that you're an interesting character, but I wouldn't let you run a city. We've had that already in New York. So, you became involved in this fiasco
Yes, Your Honor.
that I assume you believe you're an intelligent human being,
I believe so, most of the time.
and you are a New Yorker.
Yeah, a New Yorker.
So, as a New Yorker, you're supposed to have a certain amount of common sense, know where it's at, know what's real, know what's not real, know when it's raining, know when it's somebody else is doing something on your leg. You're supposed to know all those things, right?
Well, I did live in Texas for 8 years.
So you became involved with this thing sort of
Yes.
on a lark.
Something like that.
Sure. And so you're suing him because you say that he promised to pay you 50 cents a piece for the signatures that you got on a petition.
And I did a great job.
Just a second.
Okay.
50 cents a piece for the signatures that you got on petitions so that he could get his name on the ballot. Because you
Yes.
needed how many signatures, sir?
7,500.
How many did you get?
We got over 7,500.
Did you pay anybody else for getting signatures?
No, Your Honor.
Then you decided, enough of this foolishness, and I'm throwing in the towel.
It became a lot of work.
Yeah. What kind of work do you usually do?
I run a reality tour, a Kramer's reality tour, my show for Seinfeld fans. It's a multimedia romp through the world of Seinfeld, and I have a stage show based on it. And so basically I travel around the country, and I run this tour in New York City every weekend. And that's what I've been doing for a livelihood.
But what are you going to do when Seinfeld goes off the air? You're going to have to get a real job, Mr. Kramer.
I doubt it very much because, you know, there's only 39 Honeymooner episodes, and that's still here. So Seinfeld will finish with 177. It's part of the world's cultural landscape.
Mr. Kramer, what did you do before Jerry Seinfeld made you an icon?
I managed to live through my own entrepreneurial ways. I did stand-up comedy for a number of years. I invented electronic jewelry. I managed a rock reggae band. I had everything to avoid actual work, I might add.
I'm glad you added that. Tell me how he promised to pay you.
Well, let's go back a little and how we actually met at a conference sometime in 1997, and I was putting together some articles, and I had wanted to do an article on Kramer for some Far Eastern magazines. So anyway, Kramer, I went on the reality tour, and I have to admit it's a great tour, and I enjoyed it and had a lot of fun. And so right after that, I started putting some articles together on Kramer, and on April 22nd, I had gotten a letter inviting me to share a moment of history with the real Kramer at 6 p.m. at the Cafe St. Francis. So I went there, and Kramer had about 5 or 10 people there, and they talked about his intention to run for mayor, and people got picked for various positions to basically run the campaign. My duties were to get people to volunteer for the campaign and anything I can do along that line, and also go out and get signatures myself.
And you got enough nutty New Yorkers who came
I got
up.
a lot of signatures. I think I'm the
right.
best there is in signatures getting, and Kramer will attest to that.
You got a lot. You said you got a lot of signatures, a lot of good-looking women, a lot of signatures you couldn't use because they weren't citizens, but they were good-looking.
So anyway, there was a time in the campaign where I was putting in a lot of time, so I had talked to the treasurer about not being able to do this because it was too time-consuming and needed to work something out. And he says, well, let me throw some money your way, and we'll have some money coming in, and I could offer what's a standard rate for signatures, and it's pretty much 50 cents a signature in New York if you do that. Go out and get signatures. So I agreed to that with him, and went.
Where is he?
He couldn't be here today, Your Honor.
Well, you didn't bring him here. You can't tell me what he said to you. You can't tell me that he agreed.
I couldn't get in touch with him.
Well, that's not my problem, sir. That's your problem.
So anyway,
tell me what conversations you had with the defendant.
So Kenny and I had some conversations after that, and after the campaign was over, Kenny decided to back out of the campaign and not go any further. We both had other work and went different ways, and Kenny started traveling a little, and he was really out of pocket. And I had some things coming up where I figured, well, then if there isn't money in the campaign, or I'm not able to get in touch with his campaign treasurer, maybe he could do some appearances for me. And he agreed he would do an appearance for fundraising. And that was the last.
Fundraising for what?
Oh, I do a lot of work with nonprofit organizations, and I've won awards for my rape awareness public service announcements about for rape crisis centers.
So
I put together 30-second
he would do an appearance
PSAs.
for you.
Right. So he said he would do an appearance for me, and then
Did he do that? Did he do an appearance for you?
No, he did not. Okay. But he was also very busy, and I did keep trying to reach him, and there was never an anger about this. It's just that I kept trying
so when did you get angry, Mr. Irizuli?
Well, I never got angry. I think he's a wonderful person and a good human being. I just think he owes me the money.
Well, just a second. Well, when did you decide that you wanted the money?
About a month ago.
About a month ago?
Yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I was an intern on the Kramer for Mayor campaign, and I just want to say that at no time did Kramer act improperly towards me at all.
And later today...
I don't find, sir, that part of your lawsuit is legitimate for this court. Do you understand? That is all I'm entertaining, sir. Do you understand? Period. End of discussion. I'm telling you what it is. If you wish to leave, you can leave.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donald Iarrusi wants former mayoral candidate Kenny Kramer to pay him for working on his campaign. Kramer says no one was paid.
I have a couple of questions for you. Did you ever have a direct conversation with Mr. Kramer wherein Mr. Kramer said that he was going to pay you for working on his campaign?
No, I did not. I did not.
So, is there any other person here that you had a direct conversation with who was attached to his campaign, who
Well, I talked to
guaranteed...
John Seminary. Yes, yes, yes.
You didn't hear my question.
Go ahead.
Is there another person here who was attached to his campaign who you had a conversation with about payment of 50 cents each for the signatures that you gathered?
Yes.
And who was that?
John Seminary.
Where is he?
He's seated to the left of Kramer.
Step up here, sir.
I was Kenny's campaign manager from the whole time before that meeting began. We had hoped the campaign would be a little more successful. What we had thought would be, we had hats and pins and bumper stickers and T-shirts made, and we hoped that those funds would be able to kick off the campaign as far as the fundraising goes. And that never materialized. We had felt that the mayor
People in New York aren't that stupid.
Well, no, we had felt that the mayor
Could you answer my question for me? I mean, you know, I mean, this is not a catharsis for you, sir.
No, it's not.
Did you ever,
no,
as campaign manager?
No.
How come you always anticipate? It's like, I feel like Johnny Carson and Karnak. They answer my question before I ask the question. Listen to me. Did you ever tell the plaintiff that he was going to be paid for gathering signatures?
Yes, we had spoken. And
about what?
About some money for out-of-pocket expenses because people were traveling on the subway by themselves.
Right.
I
can
there were
understand
times,
that.
and I know there was a rainstorm, and I was caught with a bunch of people, and I went for a few rounds, you know. So
rounds?
there were.
What does that mean, a few rounds?
Well, I paid for a few beers and some drinks for people.
Oh.
So, you know.
Mr. Irusi, I gather you had a conversation with him wherein it was discussed that you had certain expenses and what were you going to do about it, if anything. And he said, we'll try to take care of some of your expenses, and if we can't, we'll try to work out some other way to make you happy. Is that about it?
Yeah, that's about it.
How does that translate into 50 cents a signature?
No, that translated into a money amount where we also talked about a personal appearance where I would do.
Just a second. Was there any time frame with regard to this personal appearance?
I emailed Kramer on July 10th, and he responded saying, let me know the date and time.
So did you tell him? Did you give him a date and time?
I did, but he was, well, no.
Just a second.
No, not a definite one because he was out of town.
So did you give him a date when you wanted him to appear and give him sufficient time so that he wasn't doing all this traveling so he could appear for you? The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
And when was that?
July 10th, 1997.
Do you remember receiving that email?
I may have, Your Honor, but as Mr. Ruzzi said, I had been traveling a great deal. But, you know, one thing I'd like to make clear now, the dispute that he claims is about these signatures. But I'd like to just enter into evidence, if I may, some of these sheets of signatures.
Listen to me. You don't have to bother, because I find that there was no agreement with regard to payment for signatures.
Well, even if there was, the signatures are totally invalid. There are 15 signatures on our page. Every one of them is women. He's just
What's
signed,
wrong with women?
Well, and many of them from illegible. You can't read signatures. You can't, you know. So the point is, if you're paying for signatures, it should be a valid signature.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Mr. Kofi, you're supposed to file a lawsuit because it's a legitimate lawsuit, not because you're using it as a sort of Damocles that you're holding over somebody's head.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donald Iarrusi wants former mayoral candidate Kenny Kramer to pay him for working on his campaign. Kramer says no one was paid.
Mr. Kramer, I haven't heard any testimony that is in any way persuasive that there was a contract, an employment contract, even if it was as an independent contractor, for him to be paid for those signatures. What I have heard is, and what I tend to believe, is that he was supposed to be in some way compensated for all the hard work that he did. There was never a fixed amount, but that you did, in fact, assure him that you would make a personal appearance for him at one of his fundraisers. Now, isn't that true?
That is true, Your Honor.
And all I'm trying to find out is whether you welched on that agreement.
And I'm available to make a personal appearance at a
When?
at any time
When?
and date that I'm available for.
Well, then this is perfect. We have a fine resolution to this case. Sir, I find that there was no contractual arrangement between you and the defendant to pay you for the signatures. However, I do find that he did agree, either through himself or through his manager, to compensate you for some out-of-pocket expenses, and you agreed to take the services of Mr. Kramer in compensation or in lieu of the dollar amount, and Mr. Kramer has indicated that he is prepared to follow through with that. So it's been a pleasure meeting you. I wish you continued success. Your case is dismissed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
Look, I just want to say here and now that I was an intern on the Kramer for Mayor campaign, and I just want to say that at no time did Kramer act improperly towards me at all. Okay, I just want to make that very clear, because we are in a sort of a semi-legal, semi-media setting. I just want to make that clear. No soiled clothing of any kind, nothing.
सोच रहे हैं कि ओलंपियाड में ट्रेनिंग शुरू करने के लिए आपको बहुत ज़्यादा पैसे सोच रहे हैं कि ओलंपियाड में ट्रेनिंग शुरू करने के लिए आपको बहुत ज़्यादा पैसे सोच रहे हैं कि ओलंपियाड में ट्रेनिंग शुरू करने के लिए आपको बहुत ज़्यादा पैसे सोच रहे हैं कि ओलंपियाड में ट्रेनिंग शुरू करने के लिए आपको बहुत ज़्यादा पैसे